Alright, hello everyone once again. This will be my second commentary video. Hopefully I will improve the process since making my first. This video is based on our current number 1 2v2 team on BG9. At least at the time of making this video we're number 1. I haven't been playing much lately, so hopefully we don't get overtaken in the next couple days, but we never know. We have about a 2850 MMR, which I believe is by far the highest on the PG, but whatever, MMR means nothing. So this is my first ARMS video of Wrath of the Lich King, and I'm actually pretty excited about it just because there really aren't that many ARMS videos, so I think at this point that the playstyle is fairly untested. So I certainly, I'm sure, have not figured out all the tricks of ARMS, but this video is basically to show what I've figured out so far. So hopefully people can get something from it. Hopefully it's an enjoyable watch. And hopefully I'll make some more. We'll see. Alright, so this first set of matches is against Paladin Death Knight. Basically what we do against almost any Paladin team is I just don't get attached to a particular target, and the main goal that we have is not so much to stick one target as it is to just make sure that there's no healing going on. So generally what I'll do is I'll start on the Pally, I'll push him hard till I run out of intercept and charge, and then I'll get peeled, and I'll instantly swap and go batshit crazy on the DK until my charge is back up. I'll focus charge, focus intercept to heal, I'm back on the Pally till I get peeled again, and pretty much just repeat the cycle. Right here is the kill from this first match. Focus charge to a fear, and pretty big CC chain. But like I said, I mean, basically, we end up killing different people pretty much every other match against this team. We'll kill the Pally sometimes, we'll kill the DK sometimes. If the DK decides to just train my Druid, basically we'll split the map, I'll go on the Paladin, and we'll split the two of them as far apart as possible, and I will definitely kill the Paladin before DK kills my Druid. And if they're on me like this and healing, etc., we just shut down heals. Okay, so Trinket, Super Strikes, Blade Storm. If you find an opportunity for a good one of those, it's pretty much a win against most teams. Shattering throwing this. Probably could have feared this Holy Light, but I really thought I'd get it with intercept. That kind of sucked, but whatever. So, there's two macros that I think are pretty essential to play ARMS at the high level right now. One is Focus Charge. Focus Intercept is also really good. Focus Charge is by far the most important. The other one is Intervene macro for your 2v2 partner. One that just says cast target equals whatever your 2v2 partner name is, intervene. I think without those two macros, we would probably be a couple hundred points lower. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but they're certainly pretty essential. Alright, so, it's the same thing going on this match. Just locking down heals, and just swap him whenever you get the opportunity. Here, you can see I switched targets before even death grouped me, because I knew it was coming. Just turn around and shit on the DK. So a lot of times, I think I switch targets more than any warrior I've played against in twos. I don't know if that's necessarily good, but it creates a ton of pressure. I'm not so much worried about zerging one target down as I am about getting two targets to half health. And that's pretty much just how we play the comp, is we basically create enough pressure that they have to blow cooldowns, and then we do it again and they get killed. The problem with swapping all the time is sometimes, you swap on a cyclone target if you're not communicating perfectly, but that's really not a big deal. And the other thing about swapping a ton, as Druid Warrior right now, is that the Druid can just cyclone whoever's not on DR, and if you're not attached to a particular target, you can just sit on whoever else. I think that we play very aggressively. what I try to do is basically build momentum from the beginning of the fight and just sustain that pretty much the whole fight. You'll see the first time I get peeled, I'll pop retail. Because usually after I blow my first couple, my charge, my intercept, and then get peeled, like I've already created some pressure. And so I want to continue that pressure through the peel. So basically, as soon as I get peeled, I don't mess around with chasing after the target I was on. I think that's a huge mistake, and I see a lot of warriors do it. You just got to admit you're peeled and go crazy batshit on whoever peeled you. And just don't ever let the other team take the pressure off. And that's really the best way to play Druid Warrior, because the more globals that you allow your Druid to use offensively, the better you're going to do. If your team is on the defensive all the time, Druid's going to be spamming hots. That's just not a good way to play this comp. The more offensively your Druid can play, the more likely you are to win. On top of the obvious that if you're playing defensive, you're not winning. If you're playing defensive, it shuts down your playstyle as well, or the playstyle that you should have. So against Pally Warrior, it's pretty much the same as Pally DK. Just shut down heals. Doesn't matter so much what target you're on. Druid CCs whoever you're not on. Keeps Insect Swarm up. And eventually you just pressure him down. And I think that in all of these fights that I've shown so far, the Paladin never gets any hard-casted heals off outside of Aura Mastery. And that's definitely a way to shit on Paladin teams. It's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but if you can pull it off, once you get that initial momentum up, they can just never shut it down. Oh, well, I guess you got a flash through my Blade Storm, but it's not really a big deal. So, it's pretty standard for us against Paladin teams. Alright, so this is Priest Rogue. This is just sort of an introductory fight, which is why it's so heavily edited. One of the big things I do against Priest Rogue is I bounce around the map a ton. And what that basically lets us do is, one, when I intervene charge the rogue, it lets me get a MS up, or intervene intercept, it lets me get MS up, which is pretty difficult. And also when I'm bouncing around with like focus charges on the priest or intervene charges on the rogue, it gives me a couple seconds off the rogue where wound poison can actually get ticked off by Abolish. And that lets me get topped off. And that's huge. So basically you go from, a setup where it's really hard to keep your debuff, your healing debuff, and it's really hard to get theirs off. Once you start bouncing around the map, it actually sort of reverses that. So this is one of the top mage rogue teams on our battle group. We play this team a bunch, and we farm mage rogue in general, so they're trying some sort of new stuff. I intervene to get distance on the rogue, spell reflect. But at this point, once they've committed to me, I'm basically just going to stay alive, and I'm saving spell reflect for when they try to reset, so I want to be able to spell reflect a poly. I really can't afford to put it on cooldown. Once I've shield walled, if the rogue sticks on me, he's going to die to Thorns, so they have to reset to win. And at this point, I could use my globals a little better for DPS, but I'm just basically saving everything to stop a reset. And, I should get defreeze, rocket boots with the rogue, and Blade Storm them down. This is another DK Pally fight. Pretty much the same as before. This fight, I think, though, is a pretty good demonstration of the kind of offensive CC and pressure that a Druid can put out when you pressure their team hard enough that they sort of have to play defensively and peel instead of sitting on the Druid. Once again, I pop retail super early to maintain whatever pressure I already have. I mean, obviously, if I don't have any momentum going, I'm not going to waste retail. I'm going to use it to continue momentum. So I shatter the bop. Wish I would have had the kill there, but rage starvation, I guess. So Dahis is CC chaining the Paladin, and we get a kill on the DK. Alright, this is another Priest Rogue team. This fight, we play it a lot different. We play against Priest Rogue a lot differently depending on how Priest Rogue plays. This team, we were able to play super aggressively against. And you'll see right here, I usually pop retail into pretty early into evasion, but due to a miscommunication, Dahis cycled it. I normally say just cyclone when I'm kidneyed so I can pressure the road the rest of the time, but, you know, whatever. It takes pressure off. And right here, you know, I have pressure, I get kidneyed. I was actually trying to blade storm the kidney. You can see me spamming it, but I got globals. And at this point, you know, if I get blinded, it's not really a big deal because we're so far ahead, so I want to actually just trinket the chaos and get the kill. Alright, this is a Druid DK team from our guild. They were number 2 or number 3 team for a while. I think they tanked maybe a little bit. To be 100% honest, we don't really have a reliable strat against Druid DK. We have never lost to Druid DK, but we do some pretty ridiculous and random shit pretty much every time we fight them. Against most Druid DPS teams, I advocate a lot of swaps. And what that does is it forces the Druid to hot two targets, which is not only really mana inefficient, but it requires a lot more globals than if you're just sitting on one target, which means the Druid can spend a lot less globals on DPS and CC, etc. So basically, these clips don't really demonstrate a ton, except that you should be focusing really hard on not getting CC. You can sit on whoever you want, but you want to get on the Druid anytime he's in casting form. Focus charge, cyclones, etc. The reason that I don't necessarily advocate those multiple swaps against Druid DK is because that's, in large part, it is primarily a mana war strat. And Druid DK has so little trouble resetting to drink with the amount of field that they have that you're pretty much, you know, when it comes down to it, you're going to have to get a kill when they're not, if they're decent at all. They're going to have no mana problems. But the thing is, they really should not get a kill against a competent Druid warrior team. So, you pretty much just drag the game out, avoid CC, and get them in a position to make mistakes, and then you take advantage of it. And both these games, there's clips of the first game, and then there's, like, actually more of a full game. Both these games were like 15 plus minutes, so you've got 2 15-minute games sort of combined into this 3-minute segment. So, you know, I never want to give the impression in my videos that the teams we play are terrible. Obviously, you know, like I said, we have to basically exploit their mistakes to win. So this team definitely owned us in many ways, a lot of times throughout both these games. But I can't show the whole footage, so tons of credit to this team. They're very good. I should have had the kill here, but the stance lag kind of screwed me over on the charge. But that's the kind of thing you do. You pressure him down. Like I recklessly blade storm there. So in one of these games, we'll have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 almost kills, and then we'll have one where we finally actually do get the kill. In the first game, like you saw, we killed the Druid. In this game, I actually just ended up toward the end of the game sundering up the DK. This right here is the only time I'll ever blade storm without MSL. The healer CC'd, and I really needed to avoid chains there. So the lack of MS wasn't really a big deal because there wasn't any healing output. But right here, I mean, we got the DK in a bad position, and the Druid didn't have enough hots up. Dahis got a Cyclone Chain, and he just couldn't catch up. Alright, another Priest Rogue fight. Obviously, you know, I gotta have a lot of these because there's Priest Rogue everywhere. And because, like I said, we play each Priest Rogue team a little bit differently. Hopefully in my next video I'll have some fights against the super aggressive Priest Rogue with PvE gear. Unfortunately, I didn't film any of those before this video. This is a pretty annoying blade storm bug. I've had it gouged actually quite a few times. But, you know, whatever. I mean, everybody deals with bugs. I much prefer that bug over the Vanish bug that Rogues have had for like 4 years. Oh, so the other thing, and I don't know how I haven't talked about this yet, but it's sort of my job to control the Priest, in a way. At least when the Priest is on Cyclone VR. So when I'm on the Rogue, I'm bouncing the Priest as much as possible with focus charges, focus intercepts. not only to get wound poison off of Abolish, but to hamstring up on the priest, to keep him from fearing or burning my druid. And that's what's really cool about arms right now, is you can DPS one target and control the other with focus charges, focus intercepts. And I think Warrior's probably the most fun it's ever been right now, and I think it also has the highest skill cap it ever has because of that. Druid Warrior right now definitely has the most control that it's ever had. I mean, it's obviously a good comp, etc. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not an incredibly strong comp, but it's also a comp where you can actually beat counter comps by outplaying people. And if you play it really well, really well, because you have so much control, there aren't really even counter comps. There are certainly teams that give you a hard time, but there's nothing that is impossible to beat. This is Ret Rogue. I just included it by request. Basically, the idea against any rogue double DPS team, and any rogue team in general, really, is just to keep wound poison off as much as possible. So you can see him spam peeling the rogue. I'll fear and Blade Storm pretty early. And the whole time, also, Dahis is rolling hots, but between his hots, you know, he has some extra globals, and during those globals, he's just spamming Cure Poison. And what that does is, you know, it's not 100% reliable, but every time it ticks Abolish off, or it ticks Wound Poison off, right before a hot tick, it gets him a solid amount of extra healing. And, you know, in these double DPS fights, it's not like you really have to worry about mana. So, this one, you know, they're on me. There's another one of those intervene charges I was talking about to clear Wound Poison. And if you're willing to spam intervene charge, you should beat pretty much. I don't want to say any rogue team, but a huge majority of the rogue teams that stick you. Alright, so Druid Warrior is one of those Druid comps I talked about where you want to spam switch targets. And you want to stay out of CC. So, focus charges on the Druid, reflect grasp when you can. Obviously, sometimes it's impossible depending on when it goes up in relation to your auto attacks. And swap. In this match, the Warrior spam peeling me so much that I don't really have to make conscious swaps, because he basically forces me to swap. But you'll notice a few times I do swap on purpose, off the Druid or onto the Druid. And that's basically I'm watching their hots. And I'm swapping off one target as soon as it gets full hots to the target that doesn't have hots. And just, like I said, forcing those extra globals, forcing the extra mana, and just wearing the team down. Every time I do commentary, I feel like there's so much more I should be talking about, but I just can't fit it into the amount of time I have. Except on this comp, because I already said everything I want to do about this particular fight, pretty much. Demo Shout is something... Oh, okay. So Battle Shout and Demo Shout, that's another thing. And against DK Druid, it's super important. Demo Shout the DK, Battle Shout yourself. Commanding Shout just doesn't give you the pressure you need to get a kill against the team's defensive as DK Druid. And I also try to do the same thing against Druid Warrior. Usually if we die, it's not to burst from full to zero, it's to sustain pressure. So, that's the video, and I hope you liked it. Bye.